I heard the now quite famous divorce attorney called James Sexton say something that completely shifted how I view the void that we all feel sometimes. And he said that when he asked many of his clients why they cheated on their partners, their response was that it made them feel alive. And this made me think very deeply that these affairs weren't about their partner or this new person. These affairs were about them and how at some point in their life along the way, they stopped feeling alive. And when they cheated, this other person saw them as new, saw them as exciting, was curious about them. And this is an exhilarating feeling. So in the end, they were chasing a feeling because of a void. And let's be honest, most people who are genuinely happy with their partners are not out here cheating on their partners. So when I heard this, I realized how many of us are doing the exact same thing. Maybe not with an affair, but with our lives. So I want to ask you, do you have everything perhaps you thought you wanted? Job, relationship, routine, or maybe you have one of those things and not the other, but you still feel really empty. And maybe you find that your sense of aliveness is outsourced to other things, or nothing in your life makes you feel alive. And a lot of times, I think when we outsource our aliveness to other things and people, we outsource it to our job, to our partners, and we kind of end up losing what I'm going to call a personal pulse. And the real problem, I don't think, is that we're with the wrong person or always at the wrong job. I think the real problem is that we've become a passenger in our own life and you have no personal pulse that really belongs entirely to you. You are in a hostage situation with your own boredom and you're waiting for someone to rescue you. Today, we're going to talk about how we can stop borrowing a pulse and start cultivating our own. So, hey everyone, and welcome back to Get In You Are Driving. And today we are going to get into this idea of aliveness and why it is important and why I personally think we should all have something in our lives that makes us feel alive. So, still trying new setups here. At this point, I feel like I got this Rode microphone, which is great, but then I also feel like I probably need just to like hold one. This is like blocking half my face. Anyways, I'm trying to like hold it more like this. If you see me kind of looking over to the side, it's because I'm recording using a software and I'm still trying to get better about not using a script. But yeah, so today we're going to get into why we outsource our vitality, defining aliveness, examples of people in my life and how they connect to their aliveness. And then I want to get into the difference between the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment and how to find the thing worth suffering for. So, all right, let's define aliveness. I brought up James Sexton and the thing about cheating because I thought the word they used to describe the cheating was very particular. Alive. That's just a big thing to say. Before hearing that, I'm not super sure I was using this a lot in my vocabulary. And it got me thinking so much about how so many of us rely on other people to fulfill us. So many of us. I mean, so many of us, especially when it comes to romantic love. We garner a lot of energy from that, a lot of validation from that, a lot of peace from that. And the thing is, though, it's putting responsibility on someone else to fulfill us. And then this got me deeply thinking also about how aliveness for me are a lot of the personal things that I enjoy and I was thinking about how I don't want to outsource my enjoyment, my energy, and what fulfills me, my peace, my internal stability to a person or a job or a thing, right? Like I want to get this feeling of aliveness from something else. And yeah, I want to figure out how to do that. And I started thinking about okay, Maria, what makes you feel most alive in your life? And the first thing that popped up was writing. Of course, there's other things as well. Like, I do love being with people and seeing my friends. I mean, of course, relationship is important. I'm not saying throw it out the window altogether. I thought of that. I thought of walks. I thought of getting a coffee. But the biggest thing that came up to my mind of what genuinely makes me feel alive is writing. And it got me thinking about how we are, how would I put it? When you feel alive, I think it's just something that gives you energy, that gives you excitement, that you look forward doing. Like you look forward to doing it. And when you're done doing it, you're like, oh, I can't wait until I can do that again. And it can be absolutely anything. And one thing I want to make clear is that whatever puts you in this state absolutely does not have to be work. And if it is work, great. Some people genuinely love their jobs, but I think there is a misconception that we all need to be entrepreneurs and love what we're doing all the time. I think there's a balance there. I actually did an episode about this on Eastern cultures versus Western cultures and how they tend to prioritize duty and family and providing. Whereas I think a lot of times on the West, we can romanticize this idea of doing what we love and being passionate. I'm going to get into that a little bit later again, but I will say this. I do think as humans, we are all meant to create in some way, shape, or form. And we need to have a creation outlet. And a creation outlet isn't just paintbrushes and painting. Because think about it, like creation is all around us. I mean, buildings that are made is creation. I mean, a plane is creation, right? Like writing words as a copywriter is creation. Posting a video is creation. I think we really are meant to create. And I think that's what I want to connect the most to how you feel alive. And yeah, I think that maybe where we get this wrong a lot is looking for this feeling and a high within just romantic relationships or within just our jobs. Yeah. So, anyways, my idea of aliveness, and again, how I would define it, is something that gives you energy. And I heard Emma Grede say, in reference to a career and what she thought you should pursue, which maybe leans more into passion, it's hard, that you need to go after what gives you energy. And I really like that idea because what I'm realizing in my career, which has not been at all linear, is that going after what gives me energy at a certain point in time has always been the right choice. And like I said, right now I'm really into writing. I'm really into podcasting, gives me energy at the time. Let's see where that takes me. But yeah, this is what I mean by aliveness. And this is what I mean by when we outsource it to other things. I think it can lead us down to things like cheating, and all kinds of other things. I've written about this a lot too, about why I think stability is just not good for us and doing things out of fear is not good for us. And the way that if we don't have something in our life that makes us excited to get up in the morning, the way that just takes a toll on our mental health and our emotional health, just how we see life, right? Like we need motivation for something. All right. So to give you more of an idea of aliveness and what I'm talking about here, I want to share with you three people in my life and how I see them in their aliveness and how these are not just hobbies. I think these are truly acts of survival and lifelines. And they're when these three people that I really love, I can light up and I can see that they've kind of gone to a place where they're not super reachable. They've gone to a place where they are in their own world and where the thing they love the most is existing there with them and they're alive. One final note before I get into these three people is I heard Nick Jonas say on a random TikTok that when you do something you love, it can be something that connects you to the creator. And I thought to myself that I think this is very true because I know that when I am in this state of aliveness, something does feel very transcendent about it. It gives me peace. It gives me breath. Like I said, a pulse. Anyways, it was just an insight that I heard. Um, and I thought it was really good. And then, so, all right, my three family members. Sorry, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself because I'm trying to structure these episodes where I'm just naturally speaking more and have a better grasp on my ideas. Not that I don't have a good grasp on my ideas. It's just that I really care about providing value. And a lot of what I talk about is dense, abstract stuff. So I just don't feel like I can go off on a speaking tangent and be like, yeah, la, la, la." Like I have very much so been reading my super detailed, super perfect scripts because, yeah, I want to make sure I'm giving you the best. But I've noticed that I am speaking in a cadence that I like much more and that I am personally being my much more natural self when I have started writing my scripts in a way that's actually me mostly going to be talking just to the camera, knowing already what I'm going to say. And like right now, my script is behind me on a screen. You can't see it, but there's a big screen. And I just have kind of like bullets. And I really want to get better at not being glued to the script because I want to look at the camera more. And again, I feel like I'm more my natural self. So the first person is my mom. And ever since I can remember, my mom loves playing the guitar. Oh my gosh, she goes crazy. And for her, it's an act of worship. And like I said, at every family event, at Christmas, at birthdays, she always got out her guitar. And I always loved just watching her play because I could tell that it was the only place that she brought her pain with her and was really honest. My mom has a syndrome many of us have, which is people pleasing and wanting everybody to be happy and being very nurturing. And I saw that while we all know that can be good in its own right, it can also be super awful in another way. And I think that when my mom went to the guitar and she played, she was just bringing everything to the guitar. She would finish sweating because she's a very enthusiastic player. And I just always love to see too how when she would sing for my birthday or make the family do things at Christmas, it really like brought people together. And again, it sent her to a faraway state that you could tell only she was in. But whenever she finished, you could tell she just had so much more energy again. She was ready to tackle her day again. And she just kind of like left all her anguish with the guitar. And it's something very small. Some days she doesn't play, some days she plays for 3 hours. It really depends, but I think it's her one thing where she just goes and connects with herself. And like I said, I think this state you go into with aliveness also connects you to something transcendent, whatever you think that is. And yeah, it's something that I love watching her do because she's so in her element. The second thing I want to bring up, and I wanted to share these examples too, because this is going to look really different for everyone, but everyone has something that they just light up doing. Honestly, even if it's video games. I know that a lot of girls are like, oh, he's always playing video games. Go into why guys like video games. It's actually super interesting. It has a lot to do with their wiring. And I think maybe you'll start feeling like less pissed off about why they're so addicted to it and just more understanding of what it does for them. Anyways, but yeah, I'm trying to show you that everybody has something. I want to move on to my aunt, who is the total opposite of my mother. And yeah, but where she comes alive is decorating. And I guess you could say staging. Like she never did it as a professional job, but my aunt has the most impeccable house. And I swear on my life, I have never walked into anybody's home and seen it so perfectly curated. And not only that, when the seasons roll around, you know my aunt's changing it up. Valentine's Day, Flag Day, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Her house changes with the season, changes with the mood. And also, it changes with her because at the end of the day, it's a reflection of what she's feeling, what she likes at the time. I'll never forget when her turquoise phase. Oh my goodness, her turquoise phase. She was obsessed with the color turquoise. She had my uncle paint her entire house turquoise. And I think that lasted for like 3 or 4 years. And the whole house was turquoise. And what I love about her decorating passion is that one, it brings out the little girl in her. And same thing with my mom and the guitar. Like you can just tell she is so excited to go to TJ Maxx or Michael's and just to find like this little bowl or this little seashell and add it to like her collection. Like her attic is perfect. Again, her house is pristine. And she gets so excited about new couches, new things, and not even always spending money. Sometimes just rearranging the house. Like, sorry, I was making sure the mic was on. She rearranges her house and her decorations so much. And everybody that knows my aunt knows that her house is perfect, it's beautiful, and everybody's jealous. And then not only that, she helps everybody in the family also decorate if they ask for her help, right? Like right now, I'm an ocean away. And it actually made me so sad because I've only been in rooms thus far. It's not like I've had a whole house. I'm getting there. But I cannot wait to, at least from a FaceTime point of view, I've showed her where I've lived every time. And I just love sharing that with her because I know that decorating and her also just helping people decorate and make their home cozy is something that just, again, she's so alive. She's so herself. She's her best version. And you can tell that it takes her to a special place. The third person I want to mention is my uncle who loves tools and crafting things and working on projects. He has done, I wouldn't call it construction. He did do construction. He laid floor for a long time, got into tiling, but he's very just handy with his hands. And where you can tell he comes alive isn't necessarily with his jobs when it was like hardcore going to someone's house to lay tile, but he has a garage. And in that garage, he has all his tools and his cars. And let me tell you, that garage is like my Aunt Gina's house, but the male version of a garage. It is insane. It really is very clean. There are all kinds of tools all laid out like in a certain way, very clean, very organized. And I love seeing him in his element in his garage, whether he's working on his cars, he's always working on a project. And it can be his cars, it can be a piece of furniture he found that he wants to updo. It can be anything. Like he is so passionate about his craft. And again, like my aunt and my mom, he turns into this little boy. Like you can just tell he's so excited. And something that I have found about when I have been able to recognize someone's aliveness is I try to do things with them that bring that out. For example, I love going shopping with my aunt to TJ Maxx. I love it because I see how her seeing these random trinkets lights her up. Or with my mom, I don't always do it, but sometimes I'm like, let's sing together. And my mom loves, oh, I'll play and you sing. And then with my uncle, during COVID, who wasn't going stir crazy, I remember asking him, I want to tile the wall, I love how I'm about to go Spanish. In my brain, I want to put tile on the walls in the laundry room. And who did I call? My uncle. And was he so happy to help me? Thrilled. He came over, we did all the dimensions, we moved the stuff, we went to Home Depot, and it was so amazing getting to do something that he really liked. And also I was learning, like I've learned so much about decoration from my aunt. My mom loved guitar so much, so what did she have us do when we were little? Play the piano. I still really love playing the piano, but yeah, something I need to connect with more. And then all kinds of questions with my uncle, like painting my room, all the things. So again, these are just three portraits of aliveness that I've seen with the people in my life. And I just chose those three. But if I had to go through all of my friends, I could pin it down. And again, I just think it's so important to create room for whatever this is and however it manifests into your life. And now, what I want to get into super quickly before we get into the practical block that I always like to leave you guys with, because yeah, I want this to be actionable, is I want to get into the etymology of the word passion and why I think that matters and what I'm talking about today. So hopefully these three examples, you can grasp what I'm talking about, what it means to enter a state of aliveness. And now I want to talk about passion because we think of this as something that we love. But let's look at what the etymology of the word says. And the etymology of the word says this: passion, circa 1200. Comes from the sufferings of Christ on the cross, the death of Christ. From Old French passion, Christ's passion, physical suffering. From late Latin passionem, nomativo passio, suffering, enduring. From past participle stem of Latin pati, to endure, undergo, experience. The notion is that which must be endured. something that we suffer for. So when we say we have a passion, what we're actually saying is, I care about this so much, I am willing to suffer for this. And I think this understanding that passion is something we want to suffer for actually makes a lot of sense, because if we take the route in which we decide, let's say we want to go professional with our aliveness, right? We don't just want it to be a hobby. It's not just about loving something. It's about suffering to make this work out in your life and deciding that you want to take this seriously and pursue it. This is where we see entrepreneurship come in, right? Just like anything else, it can get to be too much, but you really, when you speak to entrepreneurs, for the most part, you can tell they are so passionate about their idea. And this is actually very true, because now that I've had a taste of entrepreneurship and what it is like to run a company, honey, you have to be willing to endure the shit. Because let me tell you, whatever business you launch probably will not even make a profit until 5 to 7, maybe even 10 years in. Like, unless you're Alex Earl and you already have a professional brand, whatever. Maybe not even then. But yeah, this is something that you have to really suffer for. And you have to put your best into your craft. And yeah, I think if you're someone who maybe chooses to do this over, like on the craft side, and wants to be creative in a way that can fund your life, like I said, and probably what leads to freelancing, solopreneurship is, again, you have to be willing to endure something, to suffer for something. And I also don't want to go on the whole thing too about life is suffering and you have to suffer all the time. No, but I think we all know that if we want certain things in life and we want to go after them, it does entail a certain amount of enduring something difficult. So again, we think too much about it is all about me and I'm doing what I love and blah blah blah. But I think the truth is, even when you like what it do and it makes you feel alive, it's really hard work. Like, it's really hard work. You have to be willing to endure something. Again, this is in the case of if you want to take what gives you energy and makes you feel alive into a professional route. Maybe you don't want to do that. I also think that it's perfectly okay to just enjoy acts because of enjoyment. And that's what a hobby is, right? I think you have to decide, right? You have to figure out what's right for you. And I think that persisting thoughts in your head will help you figure that out. Something that I'm learning right now is that I like writing so much that I'm willing to suffer and I'm willing to endure trying to figure out how to make it a way that funds my life. But that's how I feel. And honestly, I have been writing since 2018. When I went back to the US to get more of my stuff, I found my first journal. And I remember buying that journal and why I bought that journal. And it was because I kept thinking to myself, I have so many thoughts, so many, and nobody to talk about them with. And not only that, when I kind of brought up the topics that I wanted to discuss, I could tell my friends were like loving about it, but I also could tell they were a little like, Maria, maybe we don't want to debate humanity while we're drinking our smoothie and studying for economics. I'd be like, well, you're right. And so actually, writing has been a hobby for 8 years. And I would say in the last 6 months, I've realized that I think I want to make it more, but that's my decision, right? Again, you get to decide. I think this really boils down to, like I said, how you feel, if you want to go after your passion, if you want to monetize it, all the things. And that is something you get to decide when you want, because I also really have seen the darker sides of entrepreneurship and what that means. And yeah, if it means a bunch of stress in your life, then it's not worth it. But if you know you want to endure that and you have something bigger, an idea, do it. Like, please do it. Because when someone is passionate about something, they are usually, being around them is usually quite infectious. Like when my 3 family members are in those states, I love being around them. All right, now I want to end on one final idea, which I think ties all this together. And it's about an interview that Alex Hormozy did with Tony Robbins. And I wouldn't say it went viral, but I think it had a lot of people discussing this topic of the art of fulfillment versus the science of achievement. Most of you probably know who Alex Hormozy is. He has done very well in his professional life, and his outlook was essentially that you always had to be suffering, and then Tony Robinson was mentoring him in this episode, and I think that's why it resonated so deeply because you really got to see Alex's internal state and him kind of shut down from this mega entrepreneur vibe. And Tony Robbins says, Alex, no, fuck suffering. Why are you always trying to suffer? And I was thinking, okay, I agree. And you could tell from his words, and in my opinion about Alex Ramosi, I mean, I like him. I have nothing against him, but I always kind of sensed a little bit of deadness in him. Me, like something was just kind of missing. And again, in this episode, he took down this entrepreneurship mask and he was able to name a huge lack he's been feeling in his life, which is fulfillment. And we all need fulfillment. And what Tony Robbins did, which I had never heard it phrased like this before, was he said there's a difference between the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. These are all his words. And he said to Alex, have you noticed how achievement is a science? And this is a science you've done super well in, Alex. Congratulations. But have you noticed how fulfillment is an art? And this is where you have not mastered the thing. And I think at this point as well, we also, whether we know it or not, you probably feel it, but maybe you haven't been able to put a name to it. We are in a meaning crisis. We are absolutely in a meaning crisis. I see it all around me. And you know where I see it the most? In myself. I really need meaning. And we keep asking ourselves, what is all this for? You know, especially young people, because we're going through really crazy times. Economic is bleh. Wars, bleh. COVID, bleh. Like, we just haven't seen the dandy little path that our baby boomer parents or grandparents did. And I think one antidote to this crisis we're all feeling is having something in our lives that makes us feel alive and choosing to make time for that. And that's why I wanted to do this episode because one, I wanted to make it clear what it was. I wanted to make it clear it can manifest in so many different ways depending on who you are. Again, it can be work. Maybe it can just be making time for a sacred hobby. But I think that you have got to have something in your life that gives you a fulfillment, something in your life that gets you excited about waking up in the morning and it not be outsourced to other things. And I think right now it has me thinking that you need to garner and nurture a very strong internal life as well. And this goes back to the beginning, right? Of why I made the hook of this, the James Sexton cheating thing, because one, I think that's a way to really see this clearly for what it is. Because I think that when we don't have the art of fulfillment in our life figured out and we don't have anything that puts us in this state, it leads us to go out and search for things that we think will fulfill us and don't. And not only that, you know, in the cheating example, is it really worth for you to be fulfilled if it's going to mean breaking up your family? But also, just from a human perspective, taking all that aside and just looking at the individuals who cheat. And I'm not trying to pick on people who cheat. I'm just trying to use them as an example. Again, they're looking for fulfillment. They're looking to feel something. And yeah, I think we rely a lot on romantic partners or jobs to do this for us. And I think that we need to figure out how to not outsource this. And, you know, Alyssa Liu said, and this is actually something that I heard before, but she said it and it connected with a lot of people, was that you have to be connected to everything, but detached enough that your alive state belongs to you. So I took a little bit of what she said and then I garnered it and focused it more on this episode. So you have to be connected to everything, but attached enough that your alive state belongs to you. And I think this is a bit of a paradox, but it's true. I think having this aliveness state in you helps you go into a flow state and have something that's somewhat just for you. And it just creates a stronger internal peace within you and internal meaning that the external world can offer you. Like at the end of the day, the external world can only offer us so much. And true peace and comfort is not needing validation or approval or peace to come from external things, but to look within. And yeah, I see so many people, and it genuinely breaks my heart, not living the life that they want, which in turn, I think puts them in an unreachable state and in a sense of meaningless and in the clouds. And something that I've written about extensionally, which is they're unreachable. Like, I feel these people's energies so strongly when I encounter them. And I hate this for them. And I wrote an essay about this called Why Stability is a Debt You Cannot Afford. And I would really like if you went to go read it. I think it would be helpful. So, yeah, to end this off before we get into the practical block, I see, again, so many people around me not living a life they want to be. And I really think the common denominator and the why this happens so much is they're scared to go after what they actually want personally. And not only that, they don't even know what they want. I had this idea randomly as I was walking that was if somebody's complaining all the time, it really just means they don't know what they want. Because a lot of times with these people, I can sense that they're dead. They're kind of living an unfulfilled, dead, meaningless life. So I'm trying to like ask them some questions to get to where I want to go. And what I realize is that they love complaining and they love being negative, but then they actually don't know what they want either. So a lot of people aren't living the lives they actually want, but a lot of people actually don't know what they want. And knowing what you want is really important. And then fear. Fear holds us back a lot. It's so much easier to stay in our comfort zone. It's so much easier to not go after what we really want. So yeah. All right, let's get into the practical block. Step 1. I want you to identify where you're perhaps identifying a borrowed pulse. Where are you outsourcing your aliveness? These people that cheat, that said that they feel alive, they're outsourcing their aliveness to another person and having an affair and maybe even sex to an extent. That's where they outsource their aliveness. So where are you getting this feeling of aliveness? Step 2, find the thing that you feel is worth to suffer for, but really choose that and be careful about that as well, because I don't want you to also think it's like Alex Hormozy, like everything's suffering either. I think there's a balance of life shouldn't be all about suffering, but going after what you want, you're going to have to endure shit. So what is one activity that makes you feel a drug-like energy, even when it could be difficult or frustrating? What gives you that? Step 3, I want you to create a sanctuary. Just like my Aunt Gina's house or my uncle's garage, have a designated physical or mental space for this flow state that you want to go in. I think that's really important. Maybe if it's an activity, maybe if it's just something as simple as walking, right? Like have that safe space for yourself. And those would be my 3 steps. So identify the borrowed pulse, find the worth suffering thing for, create a sanctuary. And one last thing that I would like you to do, a little call to action, so to speak, is for a couple minutes over the next few days, engage in one thing without checking your phone. One thing. Just engage in it for at least 30 minutes. I am trying to get better about this myself. It amazes me how as soon as I don't have stimulation, what am I doing? I am going on my damn phone. It's ridiculous. I'm trying to stop the constant stimulation. So, yeah, if you are tired of floating through your life as a passioner, this is why I created this podcast. I want you to be in the driver's seat. I want you to go back and listen to my 5 first podcast episodes, because those episodes were a really great series about how to stop being a passenger in your life and what to do. And I got into so many great steps. I got into the truth, just a lot of things. So I think, yeah, if you're thinking, I don't know where to start with all of this, start with my very first 5 episodes, a great series. And start with making a sacred time within your day and for yourself of doing something that makes you feel alive, because we don't want you to outsource your aliveness to something else. We want you to have a strong internal peace and world so that when this external world hits you, you're ready to go. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I really love enjoying these podcast episodes. I hope they can take you to where you want to go, and I will catch you in next week's episode.